I'm gonna share with you a new discovery that I made that can help you to adjust the brightness, the overall brightness on HGIG. Sometimes you use HGIG because everyone tells you that's the most accurate setting, and it's too dark, bro. I don't like it. It's too dark. So you want to use dynamic tone mapping, and that's always the worst option in my opinion. So why HGIG looks too dark sometimes? Because the game is not giving you a slider to adjust the midtones. So when you adjust the peak brightness to the brightness of your display, the midtones are darker than they should be. And I'm gonna share with you on this video how to fix that. So my goal is not to tell you the settings for Shadow of the Tomb Raider, okay? That's irrelevant. Maybe you already played the game, maybe you don't care about this game at all. What I want is to give you the knowledge, the tools, give you the information, share with you my understanding, so you can do it yourself. You don't depend on me to tell you the settings of your game, because maybe I'm not playing the game you're playing, okay? And sometimes people ask me, hey, how about this game? What are the settings for this specific game? If you watch my videos, hopefully you learn to set up the HDR yourself. That's my goal. My goal is not to tell you, hey, copy the settings for Shadow of the Tomb Raider, because yeah, you're going to play this game specifically, it's gonna look good. But then you need to watch another video of me telling you the settings for the next game, and that's not my goal. That's not my goal. I want to talk about other things also on this channel. So let me share with you my discovery, okay? It's not a discovery, it's something that is, well, yeah, it is a discovery. It's something that's always been there and I didn't know. So when we adjust the brightness here, when we go here on the TV to settings and we adjust, we are on HGIG. If we adjust this screen brightness, what we are doing is we are moving the grayscale up, okay? And by doing that, we are also raising the black level, okay? So we have another option, which is fine-tune dark areas, which it is able to adjust the black level, but it's going to affect the lower end of the grayscale, okay? So by increasing the brightness and lowering fine-tune dark areas, we are able to raise the midtones, so the visibility of the overall image, it is higher, and we can still get perfect blacks. So what I am doing on this game with HGIG, it is I am increasing the visibility of the midtones, and I am adjusting these fine-tuned dark areas to still have perfect blacks, because these fine-tuned dark areas is not going to move the entire grayscale down again. It is only going to move down the lower end of the grayscale. So the results is you get better visibility on the midtones with HGIG. So now, how can you figure this out? How can you know that this value is correct? Very easily. We are going to use the system level calibration. And if you have a PC, we are going to use the Windows HDR calibration app. If you have a console, you can use the system level calibration of your console. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to come here to this system level calibration. Let me get this out of the way. And you see here, for example, you see here the option of 0 nits or 0.005, for example. Or you can adjust this value to any value. So on the console, you don't see a number, but you move the slider all the way to the left, and you know that's supposed to be 0 nits. It's supposed to be darker, dark as possible. So I'm not too familiar with how that looks on the console. I've seen it on some videos, but I don't remember exactly. But what we need is we need to match. We need to find the equivalent values. So you can grab a piece of paper. You can grab a piece of paper and start getting equivalent values. Okay. So that's going to give you options. That's going to give you options to raise the midtones, okay? So for example, I find out here on this app that if the game has the black level raise and it is 0.005 nits, I lower this fine-tuned dark areas to -5, and -5 fine-tuned dark areas is the same as crushing 0.005, okay? Of course, the zero value, it is 0, fine-tuned dark areas on 0. So this game, Rise of the Tomb Raider, for example, this game has the black level raise, and it is exactly 0.005. And how do I know that? Because I play the benchmark on the game, on Rise of the Tomb Raider. I play the benchmark, and between sections, the game, so the screen turns goes down face to black on the loading, when it's loading a new section of the benchmark. So on that black screen, I see that the black level is raised. So by using fine-tuned dark areas -5, that is perfect. So then I come here to the calibration app, and what I am looking for is, what is -5? What is the level of, what is the black level raise value, basically? So when I use here 0.005 and then I use fine-tuned dark areas -5, I have perfect black. I cannot see the logo, okay? So what I am looking for now, to have options to increase the midtones, what I'm looking for is the equivalents, okay? So for example, one equivalent of this is brightness 52, fine-tuned dark areas -8. So how can I figure that out? Very easily. We come here, for example, advanced settings, brightness. Let's say I want to raise that even more. I'm gonna use screen brightness 53, okay? So by doing that, I am raising the black level, I am raising the entire grayscale, okay? So if I use 53 here, now I can see the logo. So then what I have to do here is come to Game Optimizer, go to fine-tune dark areas, and lower this even more. So I'm gonna lower it here. It's difficult because the light is on, and I'm gonna tell you the value. Yeah, very easy. So it is -10. How do I know that? What I do is I start lowering these fine-tuned dark areas until I see it's black. And then I check. I raise it from -10 to -9. I can see the logo on -9. Then I know it's -10. So now I have the option. So I find out two options that are equivalent. I'm giving you equivalent options, okay? So one option is fine-tune dark areas -5, brightness 50, okay? Then another option is screen brightness 52, fine-tune dark areas -8. And another option is screen brightness 53, fine-tune dark areas -10. So all of those options are going to give you perfect blacks, are going to give you the correct black level, but they differ in how bright the midtones are, okay? So what we are doing with increasing this screen brightness is we are moving the grayscale up, and as a consequence, the midtones are gonna be more visible, okay? Of course, we cannot increase this too much, otherwise the colors are going to start to look washed out, okay? We have to be careful with that. But this is an option. This is an option that you can try in a game like this, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I see the midtones on HGIG. If I use fine-tune dark areas -5 and I leave this screen brightness on 50, the midtones are too dark. It is too dark. So what I do, what I would recommend here is this option, 52. I was testing this, 52 and -8. That's the option that I would recommend. And this is an easier way to arrive to this conclusion. Of course, I can just run the benchmark again and again and again until I get this result. And look at the black screen and move fast. But that's gonna be a lot of work. So what I do, first, I establish a baseline. Does the game has the black level race or not? It doesn't have the black level race? Perfect. Just come to this calibration screen and make sure that any combination of fine-tuned dark areas with brightness still give you perfect black. That's easy. Now the game does have a black level race. Okay, perfect. We are going to establish the baseline with fine-tuned dark areas. We come here to this calibration screen and we're going to find the equivalent values. Okay, so we find the equivalent values and then we go to the game and we try those different equivalent values options. Okay, and you go with whichever you prefer. In this case, what I prefer in this game is gonna be this -8 and 52 on the brightness, and I'm gonna show you how good that looks. Okay, so 52 -8, this is looking very good, and I'm also going to give you a comparison between the Native HDR, which is what I'm using here, and the Auto HDR from Windows 11, and tell you why the Native HDR is better even when it has these issues. Okay, I'm gonna share that with you here in just a moment. So maybe this is a lot of, for some people just want to, just give me the settings. This is not the video for you. Okay, I'm gonna give you the settings. I'm gonna post that on the comments, but bro, be a little bit more, how can I say, you pay a lot of money for this TV, or maybe your dad did pay a lot of money, but the thing is, this is a very expensive toy. Okay, you deserve to get the best results, and if you have to watch a video of me or anyone else every time you play a game, what if you don't have that video? What if you're playing a game that nobody's playing and you don't see a video? You have no information on the internet. You don't know how to set up the HDR. What are you gonna do to play with wrong settings? I'm trying to teach you so you know how to figure this out yourself, how to get the best results, and that's my goal. My goal is not to tell you, oh, here's my recommended settings for Shadow of the Tomb Raider. That's irrelevant. Who cares? You might be playing another game, maybe you already beat this game. But the information I'm giving you is a tool that you can use to get the best results for your game. So I'm gonna show you a comparison. So you see how good the game is looking. It's phenomenal. The midtones look great. The highlights, everything, the colors are colorful. So I'm gonna share with you a comparison between Native HDR and the Windows HDR, Auto HDR from Windows 11. So after calibrating the Auto HDR from Windows 11, this is fantastic. All the games are perfectly in range. There are some games that have the black level race. We have Genshin Impact. Games that have the black level race on SDR. Okay, so Auto HDR is not gonna be any different. So for example, this game has the black level race. Okay, and if I remember correctly, the value was, for Auto HDR from Windows 11, the value was -19. So on fine-tuned dark areas, we have to lower that to -19, which is a lot. It has the black level race a lot. But that's not the problem. Okay, that's a problem, but after we fix that, the difference that I see is the colors. Okay, so I have a comparison here between both. This is the Native HDR and this is the Auto HDR from Windows 11, and I'm gonna share with you the difference. Of course, on the video, this is something that you cannot see. It's gonna look blown out on the video, so you have to rely on my description. So they are both trying to output 797 nits. This is the Native HDR, is trying to output the same 797 nits as the Auto HDR from Windows 11. So the difference is not, oh, it looks blowing out here because the display cannot handle that brightness. That's not the case. On real HDR, this looks blown out. So you cannot see all the branches of the trees. With the Auto HDR from Windows 11, you can see everything. You see all the details on the highlights. but I would still go with this because the colors are more vibrant. The colors are better, and you can maybe justify this looking a little bit blown out as a creator's decision, because it doesn't matter how much you lower that a brightness slider, you always see the same result. So it's not a problem of the brightness is too much for the display. That's not the problem. It always looks the same. So for me, that means that that's probably the creator's intent. Otherwise, if you lower the brightness, you should not have that, the level of detail. You should not have this clipping here. So the problem with the colors is that Auto HDR from Windows 11 is not pushing the colors to that wider color gamut. This is using AI to predict the color values inside that wider color gamut. So when you use Auto HDR from Windows 11, the color space that it is that wider color space. It is that BG2020. But it is not pushing the colors outside Rec 709 because the original signal is SDR, and SDR is Rec 709. So I find out that even if I increase the saturation on this calibration screen, on this calibration app, we can, at the end, we can increase the saturation here. We have a color saturation slider here that we can increase. I find out that even if I increase this saturation, I cannot get the saturation I get here with Shadow of the Tomb Raider on the native HDR. I cannot get that saturation. So what I get is the colors looking more saturated inside that Rec 709. So for example, the skin tones, things that are not supposed to be colors outside Rec 709. So most of the colors are on Rec 709. Most of the colors are on that SDR color space, okay? And there are some colors that they can take an advantage of that wider color gamut, because with more brightness, you have the option to show colors. You have the option to show a wider color separation. That's the key. Is the color separation matter? So for example, you go to nature, you film with a camera that can record, and the camera, maybe, let's say the color green is, I don't know, this color green is very far away from Rec 709, but the camera cannot capture that color. What it's going to do is find the equivalent of that color. Not find the equivalent, it's going to be able to record a less saturated color. So as a consequence, you are not going to be able to record this separation of colors, okay? So this is the real color, this is the color that the camera can record, okay? So if there are some tones of greens in between, the camera cannot record that, and it doesn't matter what separation of colors it is present on the nature, the camera is just gonna record the same color. It's a little bit difficult to explain, but basically the Auto HDR from Windows 11, I see that it is not pushing the colors to that wider color gamut. So this native HDR looks more colorful, it looks more beautiful than the Auto HDR. So the Auto HDR, after you fix that black level race, that's not a problem with Auto HDR, it's a problem on SDR. After you fix that, it looks perfect, the range is perfect, it doesn't look washed out or anything, it looks great, but it doesn't look as colorful as the native HDR. So I would prefer the native HDR even when I see that it is clipping these highlight details, and that is not happening on the Windows Auto HDR. So the Windows Auto HDR, I would say it has a better, it's preserving the details better, but this is still better in my opinion, the real HDR from the game. So remember, I'm not an expert, I'm trying to give you an explanation of my understanding. I might be wrong, I'm learning. I've been learning about this for 3 months, but I'm trying to share with you my understanding. And That's the way I can do it. So let me know if you have any questions. Hopefully this is helping you now to adjust the midtones for HGIG in case that they look too dark to you. And the problem why they do look too dark is because the game doesn't have a slider to adjust the midtones. So when you lower that peak brightness, the midtones are gonna be lowered as a consequence too. So yeah, if you have a brighter display and it's a 2000 nits display, I'm sure that when you select 2000 nits then or 1500 nits, the midtones are gonna be brighter too. So they come together, and that's the problem. That's why they look better to you. So on this game, you can also use, just to finish the video, you can also use dynamic tone mapping. And what you can do is use dynamic tone mapping and just use 50. For example, just use the brightness, the default brightness on 50 and -5 fine-tune dark areas. And that looks too bright for me. The midtones look too bright in my opinion. So what I would do instead of that, I would lower the brightness to 48 and I would increase the fine-tune dark areas. I think it was to 4, if I remember correctly. How can you figure that out? Easily. Go to your calibration on Windows 11 here. Go to the calibration screen. You select 0.005, which is the race. This is the black level race that we have on this game. We go here. This is very easy to figure it out. You don't need me to figure this out. You can do it yourself. But I'm gonna post the settings on the description anyway. So we select here 48. Okay. And then we come here to fine tune dark areas and we're gonna raise that value to get that value. So I would recommend you to use dynamic tone mapping with these settings. Screen brightness 48, and I'm gonna find out, boom, here it is. Okay, here it is. So it will be 48 and fine tune dark areas in 2. That would be the value. So you can find that out very easily. Just play around with this and you will see. So by doing that, we are now lowering the midtones and we are making sure that we still have perfect blacks. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions.